Welcome back to Afternoon Live. The hormone shifts through perimenopause and menopause affect a woman's body in so many ways. One of the most disconcerting effects can be your libido. Here to share more about what you can do, we welcome back nurse practitioner Natalie Mohler. It's so nice to see you.
You too. Thanks so much for having me back.
Tell me about the hormone changes that happen specifically during perimenopause. I think a lot of us are learning new information that we didn't even know this stage even existed.
Yes, I feel like perimenopause is really hot right now, like no pun intended, but some of the common things that happen, so like mid-40s is when I see a lot of people that are experiencing changes associated with estrogen and progesterone. It can be period changes, hot flashes, night sweats, trouble with sleep, anxiety, irritability. So those are really common mid-40s. And then usually age 51 is when periods stop, when you're like in menopause.
Okay.
But early symptoms can start late 30s, early 40s, and that can be also sleep disturbance, anxiety, and libido changes.
What a gift.
Yeah.
To experience all those things for such a long period of time.
Yes.
Tell me about testing hormones, and can that be helpful depending on, I guess, what stage you're at?
So, like, yes and no.
Right.
I have, like, unpopular opinion is not as much as we would like them to be helpful. I feel like a lot of people come in and they really want, like, their estrogen and their progesterone checked just to, like, see where they're at. And there's not a lot of utility in checking those hormones. I feel like if people come in their mid-40s and they're having really classic perimenopause symptoms, you don't necessarily need a baseline for those hormones.
That makes sense.
But ruling out other things that can have, like, overlapping symptoms like thyroid and diabetes are really helpful. And I do like checking testosterone for people just to make sure they're not at like already the high end of normal before we would start therapy. So it's kind of like to make sure they're a good candidate.
I feel like a lot of women in that age range, they're searching for answers, and sometimes you just don't get it in that type of a test. There might be other things happening, so that makes sense. So when's the right time for women to think about talking to their providers about approaching perimenopause and menopause?
Now. For everyone. I feel like it's now.
Right.
I think if you're in perimenopause and having symptoms, go now. If you're in menopause, periods have stopped, whether you're symptomatic or not, I think it's worth a conversation around like the benefits and risks of hormone therapy. And even if you're in your 20s and 30s and you have no symptoms, it's really nice to know like what to expect, what's coming, what can you do about it. I like to have a game plan for people like years before they even need it.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw one of my doctors, she was telling me about things that are going to happen in the next 5 years, and I was thinking that's actually helpful to know now instead of getting it all at one time, because that can feel overwhelming. Okay, I think we have a graphic that we can share that will walk us through some of the hormone changes throughout a woman's lifetime.
How fun.
Can you kind of walk us through this?
Yes, okay, so I'm seeing kind of like, okay, so you have infancy, and then puberty, okay, reproductive years. So you kind of have like, you go from a low hormone state in infancy, and then puberty is a lot of like variation, fluctuation. Reproductive years are typically pretty predictable as far as the hormone cycles that are happening there. And then perimenopause is almost like reverse puberty.
Right, so that's a very steep track as well. Okay.
So similar kind of just like hormonal fluctuations that are less predictable. And then menopause, you're kind of returning to that prepubescent state of just low hormones that stay low.
Okay, what are things that people maybe might be surprised by in terms of how all of this impacts their sexual function?
Ooh, surprised by. I would say early things that can happen, like that sleep disturbance that happens like late 30s and 40s for people. Sleep disturbance is one of the biggest risk factors for low libido, which I feel like a lot of people don't know. So I feel like sleep disturbance is one. That low testosterone, that really peaks in our 20s, and then it's just on like a steady decline starting in our late 20s or late 30s. And then we also get a lot of tissue changes that happen late 40s, early 50s, or whenever menopause has occurred and you're no longer having periods. Your estrogen's low, tissue changes, and then things can become painful or uncomfortable, and then that can impact libido.
Of course. What are some options if this is something that people are struggling with?
I would say, I mean, hormone therapy, if you're a candidate for hormone therapy, can be helpful, mainly because estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone all can impact libido and sexual function. If you're not a candidate for hormone therapy, or if you're not interested in hormones, there are a couple FDA-approved medications for libido. Addie and Vyleesi are two brand names, but they were both approved specifically for libido in premenopausal women.
Let's dive into hormone replacement therapy a little bit more. What exactly are we talking about when we say that? It sounds like such a blanket term. I think people aren't sure of the specifics of it.
So standard, like traditional hormone therapy would be a combination of estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen is the hormone that's typically the cause of like the hot flashes and night sweats and a lot of like the classic perimenopause symptoms. If you have a uterus, then you need to take progesterone or a progestin with it to like protect your uterus against the estrogen. Because the estrogen is kind of stimulating to the uterus. And progesterone can be helpful for sleep and anxiety as well. So there's some benefit for quality of life outside of that piece. And then I do testosterone therapy for a lot of people as well, which isn't necessarily part of the traditional realm of hormone therapy, but again, declines after our 20s and can be really helpful for mood and brain fog and libido.
And everyone's body is different, and you got to find out what the secret sauce is for you.
Exactly.
Do you find people sometimes are a little bit nervous to even talk to their provider, or maybe they've had their concerns dismissed in the past?
I see a lot of people, this is going to link back to the hormone testing. Something I see really commonly is people in their like early to mid 40s that are really symptomatic, and they do those hormone tests and they come back normal. Because they fluctuate so much. And then they're told, oh, it's not perimenopause. And then they just kind of suffer. And then you lose trust in healthcare because you went to a professional, you told them what you were experiencing, and it's kind of a gaslighting, dismissive experience that people have. So I think it can be really scary to approach. And I think there's this kind of like split thing happening with hormones where it's either they're scary and they cause cancer and blood clots, a lot of which is not true, but and then there's another side of it that's like hormones are going to solve the world's problems. And I think there's kind of like this middle ground that we try to talk about.
But it's a delicate conversation. You have to be able to trust your provider and be able to kind of share a lot of information, right, to find what exactly works for you and your body.
It can be really vulnerable for people to talk about, especially when we're bringing in like the sexual function pieces. I think it's hard to do also in like a short appointment, you know, when your like pants are already off. You're like wanting to talk about sexual function. So I think there's a vulnerability to it, and I think normalizing it is helpful to know like we're all going through this journey and we all have different experiences, but there are people out there that can help with it.
Totally. There are helpful people and options and different choices we can make to put ourselves in the best scenario to succeed, hopefully. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
It was so nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.